Hello everyone. In this tutorial, I would like to show you how does loop work in Java. That is how we can use a for loop or how we can use a do while loop in Java. So this is a very basic tutorial like for the beginner. So if you are already a pro in Java or already know how to use for or do while loop in Java, you can just skip this part or this tutorial. So within this tutorial, we will cover these four basic things that how does a for loop work, how does a do while loop work, and what is the difference between for and do while loop, and how to use break in a for loop. So for this purpose, I have taken an example of a multiplication table of 2, that is 2 times 1 equals to 2, 2 times 2 equals to 4, and likewise. So how we can create this multiplication table in our program using a program or by writing a program using this for loop or do while loop, and what are their differences. So all these things will be illustrated with that example. So for this purpose, in the beginning, first of all, as usual, I will just open my NetBeans IDE, and within that NetBeans IDE, I will create a new project, and under this category, Java and Java application, and I will name my application as loop Java and finish. So after creating my application, I will write my codes within this main segment. So as I have said before that I will create a multiplication table using for loop or do while loop. So first let me do that with the help of a for loop. So for that reason, first I will take an integer variable a, and this a will store that the value that is 2, that I will create the multiplication table of 2, and then I will create another integer variable, integer b, and it will contain the multiplication result every time. Okay, so now I will create a for loop in order to create that multiplication table. So how can I do that? I can write for okay, so this is how this is the what a standard for loop looks like in Java. So I will explain that within the very first part, this one, integer I equals to 1, that means I am initializing an variable, an integer variable, that is I, with the value 1. Okay, so the initial value is of I is 1, and then I am creating the condition for this loop, that is I must be less than 11. So the highest value of I can be 10, and then this I plus plus, this means that I will increase the value of I by adding 1 to its current value each time. Okay, so it actually looks like this, that I equals to I plus 1. So it means that with the current value of I, 1 will be added, and then the value of I will be stored as within this variable. Okay, so this is a one-time increment. Okay, so after creating this for loop, we need to write the statements here that will be executed within this loop until this condition is satisfied. So first of all, I'll write this. So this means that first of all, the value of this a, that means 2, will be multiplied with the value of I, and then it will be stored as a multiplication result within b, this variable. Okay, and then I will print So after doing this multiplication, I will just print out my result as a multiplication table. So how this print statement works, I will show you after running this program. So now we are all set. We have created the for loop, and within this for loop, until this condition is satisfied, I will execute these statements. So I have written it within this for loop, within this parenthesis of for loop. Okay, so now if I run this program, yes, we will see that the multiplication table of 2 from 1 to 10 is created. Okay, 2 times 1 equals to 2, 2 times 2 equals to 4, and up till 2 times 10 equals to 20. So how is it actually working? So from the very beginning, I have already said that I have my value of 2 within this variable, and then I have initialized another integer variable, that is b, and then I have created the for loop. So within the for loop, first of all, I have created this initialized variable, and the initial value of this variable is 1. Okay, the condition of I, or this for loop, is set as less than 11. So the value of I can be up to 10, not more than 10. Okay, and I plus plus means the value of I, each time the value of I will be increased by adding 1 to its current value. So now when the loop begins, what it is doing actually, first of all, it comes here, this statement, and what it does here, the value of a is now 2, right? Okay, so let me write down the comment, 2. Okay, 2 times the value of I is now 1, the initial value 1, so it becomes 2. So this 2 will be stored within b. Okay, then system out of print, I have written this statement. First of all, I will print the value of a. So what is the value of a right now? It is 2. So here this is this in the output console, you can see this is 2. Then I will print this string as a multiplication symbol, so it is here cross, and then I will print the value of I. So right now my value of I is 1, so this is 1 here, and then the equal symbol, and then I am printing the b. That means right now the value of b is 2, so it is 2. And after running this line, it will go here, and within this line it will just create a new line. That means the cursor will be here right now at the new position, the new line position, and then it will go back again within my for loop. And first of all, what it will do after executing the first instance of my loop, what will do, it will increase my value of I, as I have stated here, that is I equals to I plus 1 or I plus plus. So now my value of I is 1 plus 1 equals to 2, because the initial value of I was 1, and after this first increment, now the value of I is 2. Then it will verify that is 2 is less than 11 or not. So obviously 2 is less than 11, so my condition is satisfied, so it is true. And if it is true, it will go within the loop and execute these statements again. For an example, now when it goes this line, what it will do, the value of a is 2, the value of I is now 2, so it becomes 4. So same before, now I will just print this, so it will be 2, this symbol, 2 equals to value of b right now, so 4, and then it will create a new line again, and then it will go back again here, and it will increase the value of I by adding 1 to it. So the current value of I is 2, so after adding 1, the value of I will be 3. So now as the value of I is 3, it will again first consider this condition that is 3 is less than 11. So obviously 3 is less than 11, so the condition is satisfied. So these things or these lines will be executed again, and we are seeing here that it is executed again. So now when the value of I reaches to 10, what happens? When the value of I is 10, the current value of I is 10, it adds 1 with it, and it becomes 11, right? So now when 11 is 11 less than 11? No, obviously no. So this condition is not satisfied, and when this condition is not satisfied, the program will not enter this within this for loop, because the condition is not satisfied. So it will just skip this loop, and it will do nothing right now. So this is how it works, and this is how a for loop works, and this is how we can create a basic for loop, and we can create a multiplication table of 2 as an example using a for loop. Now the same thing can be done with the use of a do while loop. Okay, so let me give an example. First I will just hide these things, and I'll create a do while loop. Okay, so do while. Okay, and I will do this exact same thing under my loop statement, and the initializing variable I need to initialize before starting the do loop. So integer I equals to 1, and I need to write the condition like I wrote it here. I is less than 11. I need to write it here now. I is less than 11, and this incremental operation I plus plus I will do here. So now if we can see that what is the difference between a do while loop and a for loop in terms of writing. Is it like, while we are using a for loop, we are initializing the variable, we are setting the condition, and we are incrementing or increasing or decreasing the value of initialized variable all together here within this first bracket or first bracket, this parenthesis, right? But while we are using the same thing, while doing the same thing using a do while loop, we are initializing the variable at the very beginning, and we are stating the loop statements under this do section parenthesis. We are increasing or decreasing our initialized variable after executing these things, not together here, in separate way, and we are creating the condition as while I is less than 11 here. Okay, so these are the differences in terms of writing, that how we can create a do while loop. Now we can create a for loop. So now if we run this program again, what I will see, the output is same. You see, so what the program is doing here, that it begins the do these things. We are saying our that the program should do these things with the initial variable as 1, and then it is executing this multiplication here. So 1 times 2, that means the value of b is now 2, and as before it is just printing the results here, creating the new lines here, and after that it is incrementing my value of I. So after the first run of this do section, now my value of I is 2, and then it verifies that if this condition satisfy or not. So as now the value of I is 2, and 2 is less than obviously 11, so it goes back again and with the value within this do section and continues. Okay, so this loop has been executing likewise. So there is another difference as well. For an example, if I change my condition here, that I is less than 1. Okay, so let's see what happens. If I run this program, I can see that 2 times 1 equals to 2, it is showing. So when we are using do loop, listen very carefully this part, as this is a very intuitive basic programming for the beginners, that when we are using do loop, the initial value of I is 1, fine, and then here it is doing the value of a is 2, so times 1 and equals to 2. Okay, so 2 times 1 equals 2. So now the value of b is 2. Then it is printing this line, 2 times 1 equals to 2. Then it is increasing the value of I. That means the new value of I is now 1 plus 1 equals to 2. Then it is checking that is this condition satisfied or not. So that's why now this condition is not obviously satisfied, right? Like in either way it is not satisfied, because 2, now the value of I is 2, so 2 is not less than 1. Again, at the very first time 1, when the value of I is 1 at the very first run, it is also not satisfying this condition. But still the do loop executes these parts of statements at the very beginning. Okay, so when we are using do while loop, it will check the condition later on. So at the very beginning, whatever your condition is, it will execute the statements, however your condition is true or not. Like here, like 1 is obviously not less than 1. Yeah, okay, still it is printing because it is not checking this condition at the very beginning of running the loop. Okay, I think you understand, you've got the point here. But if we do these things, in our for loop, for example here, if I change my condition now 1, you will see that nothing appears. Okay, I have changed the condition as I have changed it in a do while loop, but here it doesn't appear, it doesn't anything. Okay, but while we were using do while loop, 2 times 1 equals to 2 was here. So when we are using a for loop, at the very beginning, at the very first run, taking this initial value, it is checking the condition. Now what is going on here, the value of I is 1, then it is checking the condition that okay, 1 is less than 1. I think not. So it does that the condition is not satisfied, it's false. So it will not run the statements over here under this loop. It will just exit the loop because the condition is not satisfied. So when we are using the for loop, the condition is analyzed at the very first run. But when we are using this do while loop, I will show you again. When we are using this do while loop over here, and I will run, the condition I have written here will not be checked at the very first run. At the very first run, the program will do this at the very first run. Then it will check the condition and from the second run, like, okay. So at the very beginning, it will just run whatever you write within here. Then it will check your condition, and if it is false, it will quit your loop, and if it is not false or it is true, it will continue your loop. So this is another very basic difference while using do while loop and for loop. So when we are supposed to use do while loop or when we are supposed to use for loop, this answer basically lies into the fact that based on your purpose. So if you need to run your codes, I mean, if you want to use a loop, but you want to run some parts of it, whatever parts of it at the very first run, whatever the condition is, then you should go for the do while loop, because it will run at the very first run without considering your conditions, set conditions, and then it will check for the conditions. Okay, so if you are okay with it, that okay, fine, I will at least give a first run, give at least one run I need without considering my conditions, so obviously you will go for do while loop. But if your purpose is like, no, my condition is strict, no run should be done which violates this condition, you should not go for do while loop, you should choose a for loop. Because within this for loop, after initializing your variable, your condition will be checked at the very first time, and then your loop will be started. Okay, So I think you have got these differences, and so this will be helpful for the beginners. And as I am showed, so how does a for loop work? We have illustrated. How does a do while loop work? We have already illustrated. And what is the difference between for and do while loop in terms of writing and in terms of executing as well? Okay, so we have also illustrated that. And now the final thing is how to use a break in a for loop. So for example, if I just add these things, I will just remove this now. I don't need this. So what is the break statement here? Okay, going back to previous, that this will run, if I run that same multiplication table in this result box or output console we are seeing. Now, for an example, my teacher is saying that, okay, fine, run a loop, but you should quit when the value of multiplication is 10. Okay, so I will repeat the question again, that create a multiplication table of 2 using a for loop. So we have done it here, that up to 2 times 1, 2 times 2, up to 2 times 10. But now my teacher is saying that, okay, do something that when the value, multiplication value is 10, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see these things. Okay, you should be quit from the loop. You should be out from the loop. So what can we do here? For that reason, that if we are in need to quit from a loop satisfying some conditions, we will use a break statement. How? For example, here I can write within this loop, for loop, if my multiplication results are stored in variable b. So if b equals to 10, I will introduce a break statement. So what actually does this mean? That the for loop will go on as before. Each time this multiplication result will be changed, my output console will be changed, and then it will check that what is the value of b. So as my teacher said, that the value of b should be up to 10, not greater than that. So if the value of b is 10, I am calling this break statement. That means if when the value of b reaches to 10, this break statement will forcefully quit from this for loop. My program will quit from this for loop. For example, if I run now, I will see this. See, it is not printing. Although I have set my condition as I is less than 11, so my loop is meant to run until the value of I is 10. But what it's doing, it is quitting when the value of b is 10, because here the value of b is already 10. So when the value of b is 10, this condition is satisfied, so it is true. And as break is here, what it is doing, it is saying that the program should quit from this for loop. So after this certain point, that when the b is 10, it is just quitting from this for loop. It is not going back and doing whatever it's supposed to do. Okay, for example, if I cancel this, okay, it will do just as before. But if I don't, or I introduce this one, it will break. Okay, and you can play with it, like I can also introduce 6. So after the value is 6, no more loops. See, no more loops. After the value is 16, okay, no more loops. So after 16, fine, it will just quit from the loop. And if I do not have any break, it will just do whatever it is supposed to do, as I have written it here. Okay, so I think now we have illustrated all the things that we are supposed to do within this tutorial. This is a very basic and intuitive tutorial for how to use loops in Java. So I hope you find this useful. Thank you. And if you guys find this helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And of course, if you do have any other requests about programmings in Java, just share your thoughts or comments, and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible with your requested tutorial. Fine, see you soon in next tutorial. Bye.